A long-running labor dispute causing slowdowns at several key ports along the West Coast as unionized dock workers protest a breakdown in wage negotiations. More than 22,000 dock workers have been working without a contract since July, and now major retail and manufacturing groups are calling for the Biden administration to step in. Let's talk about where things stand. We have Mario Cordero, the executive director of the Port of Long Beach. Mario, it's good to see you here. Certainly a tough time, obviously, for the ports. We have heard reports of disruption, some terminals being closed, longer wait times. What are you seeing at the Port of Long Beach?
Well, today at the Port of Long Beach, Seana, and first of all, thank you for having me. I can represent that all terminals at the Port of Long Beach, the 6 container terminals, are operating. There has been some coverage regarding some gate closures regarding the truck gates, but I can represent to you that the 6 terminals are operating. So I think hopefully we're moving forward in terms as the week progresses now.
I mean, moving forward, you hope things are going to go more smoothly. At the heart of this is still those negotiations that have been ongoing between the ports collectively as well as the dock workers union. They haven't been working without a contract since July of last year. Where do those discussions stand right now?
Well, again, the Port of Long Beach, we're not privy to the discussions between the PMA and the IOW, but I can say that, we have heard that, there was very positive movement to move towards resolution. There was a bump in the road here in the last couple of days. So we're hopeful that that's resolved and encouraging the parties to move quickly to try to resolve that issue. But I will say this, despite the protracted labor negotiations, cargo has continued to move here at the San Pedro Bay complex and here at the Port of Long Beach. So I think, as you mentioned when you introduced the show, these resilient workers have continued to work day in, day out.
Mario, there have been calls from the retail and manufacturing groups for the Biden administration to step in, considering that we haven't been able to get a deal yet. Do you think that's necessary at this point to help?
Well, again, it appears that there's an issue there that the parties have to resolve. And I think once this bump in the road, as I described it, this issue that they come to a meeting of the minds, we move towards resolution of the contract. So hopefully that's my optimistic view. But again, admittedly, this has been a protracted negotiation. But I think the important thing that we have to acknowledge is the cargo keeps moving.
The cargo may be moving, Mario, but we have heard several reports of more and more being diverted to East Coast ports. We had a chance to speak to Gene Soroka several months ago over at the Port of LA, saying that, look, we don't expect some of that to come back to the West Coast ports because there have been concerns about a labor shortage, the kind of things we're seeing play out right now. I mean, what are you seeing at the Port of Long Beach, and how much of that you think you'll actually get back from the East Coast?
Well, over the many years, there has been diversion of cargo to the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports. I mean, they had their respective infrastructure investments. They have options for the shippers. But I think, again, we're hopeful that once the resolution moves forward of this contract, we will have confidence again in the American shipper in the San Pedro Gateway, because at the end of the day, this gateway is in close proximity to the most important trade route of the United States. So, and as we continue to move forward with transforming our operations, as you know, the Port of Long Beach has spoken about 24/7 operations, or at least having a framework. So we will continue with that assessment as we move forward to continue to give confidence to the shippers that this is the gateway that's not only most important, more strategic, but we're going to move things with velocity and efficiency and meet the expectations of the shipper once this contract resolution comes to finality.
Well, Mario, how do you get that business back? Because there has been some talk that some of these drawn-out labor negotiations, the fact that we haven't seen a deal, that it's hurt the reputation about the reliability of your port.
Well, I mean, no doubt there's that perception, and I'm not going to be dismissive of that. But on the other hand, keep in mind, Seana, this is the same gateway that in 2021, we moved 20 million containers together with the Port of LA. And in 2022, 19 million plus. So no other gateway comes close to moving half that. So I think, again, the shippers do have options, and this has been a matter that has developed over the many years. But on the other hand, I think we have to focus on the fact that how do we move 20 million containers without congestion and bottlenecks? I think we have well progressed since that worst scenario a year and a half ago. And at this point, there is no congestion. There are no bottlenecks. There's no vessels at anchor, and the cargo is moving. So we will continue to be competitive as we progress forward.
Mario, you've always got a good pulse on the broader economic picture, just given the Port of Long Beach, Port of LA being the largest ports in the U.S. When you talk about shipment volume, what does that tell you about the demand picture and where things are moving right now?
Well, we have seen in the last month that the consumer demand has grown. It keeps a robust consumer demand, although, again, there's a lot of spending on services. So the economy at this point, we could say we have vitality in this economy. Akiko, a year ago, people were talking about a big recession, and I think we're now talking not only a soft landing, but I think we're going to be pretty stable. The latest CPI number that came out for the prior month, we're at 4.9%. The next May figure is going to be announced next week. So from an economic perspective, we're doing pretty good as a nation. And so I think with that, we will continue to prepare ourselves to meet that consumer demand. And of course, focus on efficiency, velocity, and predictability. And if we continue to focus on those three elements, again, we will be confident we will remain very competitive in this containerized trade.
All right, Mario, we will continue to track these labor talks. Mario Cordero, great to have you, Executive Director of the Port of Long Beach.